There is a mystery surrounding every prophecy revealed at Medjugorje, but few can shake consciences like the theme of the Great Tribulation. This term evokes powerful images, an unprecedented time of trial, a crossroads between grace and damnation, an event capable of marking humanity's destiny. Yet, in the words of the Virgin Mary, there is not only fear but an urgent call to prepare, to choose a side. In Medjugorje, the Great Tribulation is not just a warning, but a profound invitation to conversion. The revelations given to the visionaries touch each of us, from the youngest, who will be the pillars of a new world, to the elderly, guardians of a faith that must not be forgotten. No one is excluded, as this trial involves all humanity. But what do we truly know? Who will be affected? How can we be ready to face the inevitable? This is not just a story of catastrophes, but a message of hope hidden between the lines. Stay with us, because what we are about to reveal might change the way you see your future and your present. The Great Tribulation is an event described in sacred scripture and mentioned in the messages of Medjugorje as a period of immense suffering and purification for humanity. It is often associated with the end times, a global trial that precedes the full realization of God's kingdom on earth. In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus speaks of a tribulation so intense that, if those days were not shortened, no one would be saved. Matthew 24:22. It is a phase where evil seems to prevail, but also a prelude to the ultimate triumph of good. According to the messages of Medjugorje, the Great Tribulation should not be seen only as punishment, but as an opportunity, a call to conversion, prayer, and trust in God. The Virgin Mary lovingly warns her children, reminding them that those who live in grace have nothing to fear. It is a time of discernment, where every person is called to choose between light and darkness, truth and deception. To understand the Great Tribulation, we must grasp its spiritual significance. It is not merely an apocalyptic event, but a process of purification. It affects every aspect of life: personal faith, families, nations, and even the church. It is a time when faith will be tested, but also an opportunity to experience God's extraordinary mercy. Medjugorje invites us to prepare not with fear but with hope, living each day as a precious gift. For those who live in the heart of God, the tribulation is not the end, but the beginning of a new time of peace promised by the Virgin Mary. In recent messages from the Virgin Mary at Medjugorje, the theme of the Great Tribulation has been addressed with increasing intensity. With maternal love, the Virgin continues to warn her children, emphasizing that the current times are crucial for the salvation of souls. One of her latest messages reminded us, "The world is on the brink of great upheaval, but you, my children, do not be afraid. Pray and trust in my Son. He is your strength and your hope." The Virgin has reiterated that during the Great Tribulation, there will be an unprecedented spiritual battle, a time when evil will attempt to confuse and deceive. However, she also promised that those who take refuge in her Immaculate Heart and follow her teachings will find protection. She has insisted on prayer, especially the Rosary, fasting, and adoration, as essential tools to remain steadfast in faith. This message is not just a warning, but a pressing invitation to live in grace, preparing spiritually for any trial. The Virgin assured that even in the darkest moments, those who trust in God will see the light of a new beginning rise. The theme of the Great Tribulation is more relevant than ever. Looking around, we see a world marked by wars, divisions, and moral and economic crises. More than ever, humanity seems to live in constant tension between good and evil. The messages of Medjugorje help us interpret these events as signs of the times, indicating that the tribulation is not just a distant hypothesis, but a reality rapidly approaching. The Virgin at Medjugorje has warned us that humanity is on a path of self-destruction. Her words resonate urgently, especially when she speaks of the need for immediate conversion. My children, do not waste time. This is a time of grace, but also of great responsibility. This call makes it clear that the tribulation does not only concern future events, but involves the present, requiring a radical change in how we live and believe. But what should we fear? The greatest fear is not tied to natural disasters or global conflicts, but to the loss of faith. the Virgin has repeatedly warned that during the tribulation, evil will try to deceive and confuse even the strongest believers. It will be a time of great spiritual trial, where many may fall into indifference or be seduced by false prophets and illusory promises of salvation. The tribulation will impact every aspect of human life: divided families, societies in crisis, and a church attacked from within and without. It will be a time when sin will be normalized and truth will be ridiculed. This is what we must fear: losing our connection with God and abandoning His grace. However, Medjugorje's messages do not stop with fear. The Virgin offers concrete tools to face these challenging times: prayer, especially the Rosary, fasting, and reading the Bible. These are means to remain steadfast in faith and not succumb to discouragement. Although frightening, the tribulation is also a time of mercy and grace. It is a call to conversion, an opportunity to return to God with all our hearts. As the Virgin said, "Those who entrust themselves to my immaculate heart will be protected. Do not be afraid, but prepare yourselves." This invitation reminds us that even in the darkest moments, hope never fails for those who live in the light of Christ. Ultimately, the Great Tribulation is relevant because the world is already experiencing the signs of this great upheaval. We must not fear what happens outside of us, but what could happen within us if we do not remain steadfast in faith. With prayer and trust in God, we can face any trial, confident that after every storm comes the peace He has promised. Preparing for the Great Tribulation does not mean living in fear, but embracing a path of grace and trust in God. The Virgin Mary at Medjugorje offers us clear guidance: prayer, conversion, and the protection of her Immaculate Heart. The first step is constant prayer. The Rosary, described by Mary as the most powerful weapon against evil, must become a daily practice. Prayer brings us closer to God, strengthens our souls, and gives us the inner peace needed to face trials. Eucharistic adoration is another pillar. Being before the Blessed Sacrament fills us with divine strength. Heartfelt conversion is essential. We must examine our conscience, renounce sin, and frequently receive the sacraments, especially confession and the Eucharist. Living in God's grace makes us invulnerable to evil's temptations, even in the most challenging times. Mary also invites us to fasting, which is not just material deprivation but an offering of love for our souls and others. It is a powerful tool for purifying the heart and interceding for the world. Finally, the key is trust in God. The Virgin repeatedly says, "Do not be afraid." We must let go of anxiety and entrust our future to God's hands. The tribulation is not the end, but a passage toward the time of peace promised by the Lord. With faith, prayer, and love, we can face any trial, confident that God never abandons His children. By staying close to Mary's heart, we will find the strength to overcome any difficulty without fear, but with hope. A special invitation for you, dear friends. Your support is invaluable in continuing to share messages of faith and hope in a world that so desperately needs them. If you haven't done so yet, we invite you to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss upcoming content dedicated to spirituality, Medjugorje messages, and the signs God gives us to guide us through difficult times. Each video is an opportunity to deepen our faith and share a light that can transform lives. We ask you to share these messages with anyone who might need them: a friend in difficulty, a family member distant from faith, or someone seeking answers. Together we can be instruments of God's grace. We also encourage you to pray daily. The Virgin Mary reminds us that with prayer and faith in our hearts, we can overcome any trial. Do not fear, but always trust in the Lord, who never abandons His children. Let us remain united in prayer and love. Subscribe, share, and most importantly, carry faith in your hearts wherever you go. Thank you for walking this spiritual journey with us.